Recording in progress.
Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast, where we bring different diverse global voices to set up a fair, responsible AI governance structure around the world. And today we are joined by an amazing Austrian AI expert, Jeanette Gorzella, with us. Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast, where we bring different diverse global voices. And she's also the vice chair of the advisory board to the responsible AI governance structure around the world. And today we are joined by AI Forum, an amazing with supports Austrian AI expert, Jeanette Gorzella, with us. Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. We bring different diverse global voices. And she's also the vice chair of the advisory board to the responsible AI. So we have a global audience, and today we are joined by outside amazing. Just give us a brief to the audience. Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast, where we bring different diverse global voices. And she's also the vice chair of the advisory board to the responsible AI. So we have a global audience, and today we are joined by outside amazing. Just give us a brief to the audience. Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast, where we bring different diverse global voices. And she's also the vice chair of the advisory board, responsible AI. So we have a global audience, and today we are joined by outside amazing. Just give us a brief to the audience. Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast, where we bring different diverse global voices. And she's also the vice chair of the advisory board, responsible AI. So we have a global audience, and today we are joined by outside amazing. Just give us a brief criticisms of the Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast, where we bring different diverse global voices. And she's also the vice chair of the advisory board, responsible AI. So we have a global audience, and today we are joined by outside amazing. Just give us a brief criticisms of the Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast, where we bring different diverse global voices. And she's also the vice chair of the advisory board, responsible AI. So we have a global audience, and today we are joined by outside amazing. Just give us a brief criticisms of the Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast, where we bring different diverse global voices. And she's also the vice chair of the advisory board, responsible AI. So we have a global audience, and today we are joined by outside amazing. Just give us a brief criticisms of the Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast, where we bring different diverse global voice. And she's also the vice chair of the advisory board, responsible AI. So we have a global audience, and today we are joined by outside amazing. Just give us a brief criticisms of the Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast, where we bring different diverse global voice. And she's also the vice chair of the advisory board, responsible AI. So we have a global audience. So what you're saying is now at least there is one AI for all the criticisms of Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast. So we bring different diverse global voices. What suggestions and how specially what's rare as they are. We have a global audience. So what you're saying is now at least there is one AI for all the criticisms of Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast. So we bring different diverse global voices. What suggestions and how specially what's rare as they are. We have a global audience. So what you're saying is now at least there is one AI for all the criticisms of Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast. So we bring different diverse global voices. What suggestions and how specially what's rare as they are. We have a global audience. So what you're saying is now at least there is one AI for all the criticisms of Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast. So we bring different diverse global voices. What suggestions and how specially what's rare as they are. We have a global audience. So what you're saying is now at least there is one AI for all the criticisms of Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast. So we bring different diverse global voices. What suggestions and how specially what's rare as they are. We have a global audience. So what you're saying is they should be better, but now at least there is one AI for all the criticisms of Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast. So we bring different diverse global voices. What suggestions and how specially in the US we have a global they should be better pronounced these days one must be criticisms of what's the bring actions we have a global white house saying they should be better pronounced these days one must be criticisms of what's the bring actions we have a global white house saying they should be better pronounced these days one must be criticisms of what's the bring we have a global white house saying they should be better pronounced these days one must be criticisms of what's the
Because ChatGPT can summarize super confidential contracts, can give legal advice. I asked him if he looked at the contractual penalty, which is, I think, 800K for confidentiality breach. So you see, of course, our profession will change and is being disrupted by these technologies, but I think in a positive way, because if we lawyers and law firms learn to use these technologies for administration, for streamlining operations, we can have more time to spend with our clients. And that is actually where the value is, because I believe being a lawyer is kind of like guiding my client through the legal process that is not funny but bureaucratic and complex. And that's actually the value we can deliver even more if we learn how to use these technologies to do the things that are not fun and purely administrational and don't have any value at all.
So it'll basically allow people to do more high-end work and let some of these other things be taken care of by AI, is what you're saying, right?
Fully agree, yes.
Awesome. Jeanette, Europe has had incredible talent, AI talent, as you know. I mean, you look at DeepMind and some of these other companies that are there. What do you see the future of AI in Europe? Are you bullish on it, or positive on it, or you worry about it because there have been reports. The former Prime Minister of Italy, Drago, had come up with saying that Europe needs to change to keep innovation going. But what are your thoughts? You work with a lot of AI companies here.
I'm very impressed by European talent and European startups, and I think there is more than we actually know or believe there is. I think our ecosystem needs to develop, get more support, and get more mature, because I think they will need infrastructural support, because we all know these models need a lot of infrastructure. We need a little bit more mature financing system to give the financial support to those young entrepreneurs. But I'm very, very optimistic about the things we're going to build in Europe. Of course, I also know the Draghi report, which has had a lot of criticism, of course, in the fields of overregulation, in the fields of data regulation. But definitely we need to get better there, and we're evolving. So also if we look at the AI Act, it's like the first start of this framework. This will develop as the technology develops, as we develop. Of course, we need to synchronize all the legal regulations we have for data, for AI. This will be one of the challenges we need to tackle and address, but I'm definitely optimistic that we can do it, and we will have a positive outcome for the ecosystem.
So you're cautiously optimistic. What you're saying is more investment, more funding is needed, maybe more state support would really help. The startups have tremendous opportunity. Jeanette, we have a large audience in the US listening to this. US is in the middle of elections, so there's not going to be any AI regulation, at least for the near future. And when we talk to members of Congress, they said we are not going to do a one big bang European style legislation. If you were to give advice to some of the lawmakers who listen to this, policymakers, given what you know about the UI Act, you've been very, very familiar, what would be some of the messages that you would give to some of your listeners in the US about the lessons learned, and what can you do better in the US for this?
So basically, I think it's about filling the gaps. The EU AI Act is a horizontal legislation, so it goes as a kind of like horizontal on all verticals. I think looking at the gaps you might have in the regulations and filling those gaps with what is actually needed due to the specific characteristics of AI is maybe one good thing. Also, you said there's not going to be one big bang huge regulation, which actually might even be beneficial because it helps you in speed, right? You can do small chunks prioritized as they are needed for the market, but you can do them quicker. The EU legislation process took roughly something like 5 years, which is fast for this kind of like complexity, but still 5 years is 5 years, and technology is ahead of us anyway. So actually the kind of like doing it proportionate and step by step might even kind of like help to address the most critical challenges and moving from there. I think the new AI Act has a few good building blocks, and I think looking at the Bill of Rights, for example, and the executive order, so we have common ground there, and maybe kind of like working together to expand this common ground, to stay in sync and in step lock, to make things easy also for companies working in both markets.
So obviously what you're saying is there's some things to be learned, but the US, because the way it is structured, should continue going down the path of innovation that is happening out there. Janet, in terms of governance, I mean, you do a lot of working on governance, working with companies. A lot of companies now have set up AI ethics boards. I talk to a lot of chief AI officers who have those. What are your views on should companies have AI ethics boards? And then the other thing is, most of them are internally staffed. Should they be externally staffed, internally staffed? What is your view on that?
I think it's a good start to have AI ethics and trustworthy AI formalized as a part of the organization or as a part of the process. So it could be an ethics board, it could be a chief trust or chief AI officer, someone that is responsible for taking care of that topic. So I think this is very important, very vital, and I hope to see more of those developments along the way. Internal, external, I think it should be a collaboration also, because internally, you know the company, you know the process, you know the products, so you have deep insights that maybe help you to bring this topic into the organization deeper and potentially also faster as an outside consultant. But there are, of course, topics where you need a fresh view from the outside, someone unbiased, someone more critical. So, for example, bringing someone in regularly for an audit or just for sparring, for being up to date, I think would also be a good idea. So just combining those two things along the way.
So combining both those things, Jeanette, you think is a great perspective for you. As companies are marching down this path, one of the big things that, the concern that they keep talking about is the return on investment for a lot of these AI investments that are happening. And, when I talk to them, they say return on investment, governance is a big issue, and they're a big concern with them. When you see these AI systems out here, there are concerns about biases that are built into a lot of these systems, and the EU AI Act kind of addresses them. And some of these companies are not implementing external facing systems. Their chatbots are for internal employees. They're not deploying it externally because they're worried about these. What are your thoughts in terms of how do you circumvent these biases or these exposure that these companies have? Because you deal with a lot of these companies. What suggestions would you have to these chief AI officers who are listening right now?
I think the most important step to start is know your bot and kind of like guide the users. Looking at the internal perspective, for example, we see a lot of those bots being used for sparring, for content management, for knowledge management, to help the employees solve simple questions. Here I think it is important to guide your staff on how to use these bots and how not to use them, because I think we need to be clear that AI kind of like also has limitations or use cases you do not want to have kind of like tested on those things. So I think employee guidance and giving them education on how to work with these bots most efficiently is a step you should take internally. And also, if you do this continuously, you will very, very soon discover if things are not going the way that you planned them to do. If you work with external bots, actually the same goes, educating the user in the user policy, also maybe, for example, limiting the use of these chatbots, educating the user not to put in his or her social security number, bank data, all those sensitive stuff into those bots. But also you will always find users that love to experiment and might get an output that was not intended by the company. I think this will happen to us and you cannot prevent that. But being as cautious as you can be, but also opening up a little bit this topic, because I think the bots are a first step into experimenting with GenAI, generating value for internal use and employees and external customers, and then developing along the way.
So, experimenting but being careful with these bots, but slowly opening them up is the message you are giving to our chief AI officers who are listening. Jeanette, as we are building this regulation in EU and across the board, how important is the public-private partnership in terms of regulation as we keep moving forward?
I think it is key, in particular if we look at artificial intelligence, because we need the capabilities to understand this tech, how it is developed, how it's trained, how it's deployed. And this is something that, of course, the companies that are doing this and have been doing this for the past years and decades know best. So public-private partnership is very important for the lawmakers, policymakers, to understand what is happening, because this is not expertise that is naturally on the policy and lawmaking side. And we're seeing very good examples, in my opinion, actually now, where the codes of practice have been actually kick-started yesterday. So the European AI Office has set up working groups to work on benchmarking, risk measuring from a technical side, governance, risk governance, copyright and transparency issues, and it's public-private partnership. So the stakeholders are invited, experts from civil societies, from AI representatives, from deployers of AI models. So it's really a collaborative effort, and I think this is the way to go here, because of course the people doing this in practice know their problems best, and to learn from that, to understand that, and to wrap the policy and governance layer around this to really address also the risks, I think will be key going forward.
So the involvement of public is pretty important. The public-private partnership, getting civil society and other participants, I think becomes very, very important, is what you're saying. Jeanette, the public perception of AI has been, mixed. There's some fear, there's some optimism, etc. What can lawmakers do towards changing some of this perception in your view?
I see the fear, yes. I've been in a panel actually previously, and they compared AI to some sort of magic, right? Because you ask ChatGPT or another tool, and magically your question gets answered very eloquently. So of course this sparks fear, in particularly on the job side, right? I think what we all can do to tackle that fear and onboard everybody in the society is to work on competence and just kind of like myth busting. So we've seen huge competence offensives kind of like launched, where you just educate the public about what AI is, so how it works, how kind of like this can influence your private life, and just to educate them on how these tools work. And I think when we learn how these tools work and how we can work with them, this is an important factor to tackle fears, for example, but also kind of like to really, safely work with these tools and do this with caution. Because speed is kind of like not progress. We can do things very fast, but we can break a lot of important things along the way. So also going cautiously with digital transformation and implementing these tools in sensitive areas. But as we go along the way, we will see that fear reduces, because people also see the real benefit, for example, in healthcare, in financial services. So there's a lot to be done, but I think we're on a good way here.
So myth-busting, education, awareness, I think is very, very key. Jeanette, in terms of an actionable item to leave for our audience before we let you go on to your very, very important other meetings, what would be an actionable item that you want to leave our audience with?
Take the first step and get started on AI governance if you're a company. If you're a private person, start to familiarize yourself with AI, how it works and how it affects your private life. And I think when we do the first step and we do this collectively, we can really make this technology work for all.
So take the first step if you're a company, if you're an individual, learn about it, and collectively we can move forward. One quick question I had, you talked about your profession where your client said, I don't need you. There will be many labor changes, I would say disruptions over the period of time. And I don't know if the UAI Act addresses this, but what are your thoughts? What should regulators, policymakers do in terms of the changes that are coming for something like this?
I think AI is already very much disrupting the workspace. I think we're all seeing that. And the difference, if we look to history, is in history we had industrial revolution. It was always blue-collar work that got disrupted, that had to adapt, that had to build resilience and to change. I think for the first time in history it's white-collar work, so knowledge workers that have to deal with this kind of like transformation. And it's actually not transformation because it's like a rocket soaring through. It's right now on spot and developing so fast. So I think this is something that is a challenge also for societies and for our governments, because when this technology progresses and of course the adoption rate goes up, we will see a lot of, yes, need for upskilling, need for reskilling, need for transformation, for knowledge and white-collar workers that have not been used to this, kind of like really, really fast accelerated path as other fields have been in the past. And I think it will be one of the core challenges to deal with this, because a lot will be, I think, more efficient. Some tasks we will not have more in the future, which will free up some time for really high value work. But still, we need to find a mechanism to sort this all out, to sort our societies out, to set us up for the future, because this is something, this is bigger than kind of like just using an AI system in HR. It targets our global population. I think every government will be confronted by this in some point of time.
So what you're saying is it's like a rocket ship, and this is going to, first time it's addressing or coming at white-collar workers unlike before, and we need to confront it. Does government or policymakers have a role in this?
Definitely. And I think it's one of the core tasks of governments to think about the societal pacts for the future. How will pensions work? How do we deal with people that are unemployed? How do we distribute our wealth and value? How does taxation work? I think this will be very, very difficult topics as we see kind of like what they're targeting, right? But I think it will be very important to sort this out, because we see this massive shift in society, and also kind of like on the company side with the huge players developing these technologies and their impact.
No, so very important points you made. It's the government has a big role. You said pensions, and earlier you said about reskilling, upskilling. So those things become very, very important. Jeanette, thank you so much. Your knowledge of the EU AI Act, for the legal profession, for bringing us this valuable perspective globally to give some perspective to the American audience and the rest of the world, and tackling a lot of other topics that I threw at you is really, really appreciated. And to all our listeners, please keep listening, because you get to listen to amazing folks like Jeanette, so that we can create fair, responsible AI regulation around the world that is democratic but also promotes innovation in a responsible way. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It was a pleasure to reconnect with you here in Amsterdam, and I hope to stay in touch. Thank you.
Same here. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Hello.
Recording in progress.
Ready? Welcome to the CAIO podcast, the Chief AI Officer's podcast, where we talk to leaders who are leading AI enterprise development in large enterprises. They're the ones who are making things happen. They're the ones who are addressing issues in terms of large implementations. We have this conversation with them so that peers can learn from their challenges, their opportunities. We also give them an opportunity to talk to AI talent so that we democratize AI talent, because all AI talent should not end up in a few tech companies. And this is an opportunity also for them to inspire others who want to be in their position. And today we are really lucky to have Mr. Sagwal with us. He is the Chief Data Officer of NBC Bank, which is the oldest and the largest bank in Tanzania. Welcome to the CIO podcast.
Thank you very much, Sanjay.
So, given what's happening with AI today, can you just tell us what is Firstly, for our listeners, a little bit about NBC Bank and your role in that, because everybody might not be as familiar with NBC Bank.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. So NBC Bank is one of the oldest bank in Tanzania. We serve quite a number of diverse portfolio, corporate, business banking, but as well retail banking and everyday banking. So my role as Chief Data Officer is making sure that we actually realize value of data specifically to our customers in building up better products, in streamlining operation, mitigating risk, and make sure that as a bank we are in line with the trend that is ongoing of AI, but mainly getting the value out of it.
So while getting the value out of it, so is AI being used right now at NBC Bank, Simon?
Yes, partly we are using it, partly we are at the infant stage of using it. It's a very diverse discussion, it's a very diverse topic, and mainly because the fuel to the AI is data. And our key concentration now is making sure that we have the right information and we have the correct data, because having data and having the clean data is two different things. So making sure that we have the correct underlying governance and making sure that we collect information fit for purpose and we use that information actually to drive decisions and measure how we scale up.
So you talked about data a lot. As you know, you are in a regulated industry, highly regulated, at least in most cases. What are your steps that you do in terms of privacy and security for data? Because your peers are listening, so what would be, talk about some of the things that you do to make sure the data is secure and privacy is maintained.
So my approach is always simple. As much as you have policies, you have governance, but most of us usually overlook the issue of awareness, because you might have firewalls here and there, but usually the most attacks in terms of privacy, or they usually come in a form that is usually undetected. So my take has always been making sure that the employees within the bank, they are really aware of the threats outside. So you build up their understanding, you build up their shared knowledge so that they understand, they know what is important, what is not important, how they should react in terms of, if they receive any sort of email that is awkward or anything like that. How should the process be? How should they handle it? I mean, that part of awareness is usually undermined, and I think it's one of the key issues when it comes to making sure that you're safe.
So awareness within the employees, creating that, I think you're saying, is a very important thing for data, external emails coming in, etc. So is change management a big issue when you deal with AI implementation or some of even the data stuff, etc.? And how do you deal with that? Because things change when you start implementing AI or even some of these data tools that you're talking about.
That's a very interesting question, because in the field of data, the rate at which things are changing is very high. So you might look back 4 months ago, things which were happening. Now there are new developments. So you always have to be agile in terms of how you change your people. And agility, I believe, is one of the key issues and one of the key things when it comes to change management. You have to equip people. You have to democratize how people perceive different issues, different subjects, and making sure that you keep that momentum running. More often in our organizations, in most of the organization, there is a fire at the start, and then after some few years, the fire burns out. So I think the most important thing is to make sure that you have that dynamism, that things keep on changing and things keep on transforming, but people are not left behind. People are very key in change management, and you have to make sure that you empower and you equip them with the right skills and right set of tools to make sure that they move with the pace that everybody's moving with.
So keep moving, but don't leave people behind. I think that's what you're saying is a very important point. The other point, is how important is it to get the C-level buy-in from the board or other things in terms of, implementation of AI or some of the things that you're doing. This is again for your peers. How important is their involvement or the buy-in for, let's say, the CEO or the board of the organization for doing some of these things?
Yes, so data projects, as many technology projects, they are very difficult to get buy-in because usually you don't see realization of value at the beginning. So I usually do the compartments in data. For example, in data governance, which is very key and which is very vital, and that runs underlining brick in terms of any AI development, because you don't have quality information, you don't have quality data, you won't realize any value. So in data governance, it's very difficult actually to get buy-in because usually from the business side, people would want to see things happening a bit fast. So AI might get a bit of funding, but governance, someone might think, I don't see a direct value in it. So in terms of buy-in, you have to link whatever that you do with the value. So get simple use case from AI, link it to the governance program, and how that governance program might change the outcome. I think that is the way to go. People would want to see something to believe first for them to get on board.
They'll want to see before they get involved. As you said, data, it is difficult to get buy-in. One of the questions, when I talk to a lot of chief AI officers, is the ROI for some of these investments, the return on investments. How do you measure, especially for AI projects, tangible or intangible? Again, this is for your peers who are listening in the financial services sectors. How do you measure that?
That is a very good one, Sanjay. And the transformation that has been happening in the data space, now we have data and AI not as a supporting function. Now it's more for business function. So even how we measure, we are in the stages where most of the organizations are still trying to figure it out. How do you put KPIs on chief data officers so that, because they now not become just a cost center, they have to become a revenue generation center. So the only way you can measure that is making sure that you have correct traction in terms of how data, how AI has allowed to develop the products, how many new products have you created as a result of data and AI, all that information. And for example, when you come to models, which models have been used and which one have been consumed to create most profits for the bank, and you have to link it to the entire process flow. For example, if you have created a certain model that has automated a certain lending process, how much was it taking, the cost that it was taking to do the lending, for example, and how much have you been able to save by automating that? And you can just give, and the TAT as well, the time, because time is money. So how much time have you saved as well? So you have to put all this together as metrics to actually quantify how much that one is generating for the bank.
So quantify what either you're saving or become more of a profit center than a cost center is what you're kind of saying. In terms of some of the applications, a lot of times people say customer interaction with chatbots are very good applications. Has NBC ever used externally any of the AI chatbots, or are you planning? What are your thoughts on something like that?
Not yet for us, but it's something that we are looking at how we can simplify. Because looking at our, for example, peers, as you have said, banking industry is highly regulated. So even introduction of such things like chatbot, you have to really go through proper channels, proper testing, making sure that that interaction is solid, because there is no supervision in AI. So you have to make sure that the responses that they receive and how to go about it, because they are interacting with something that is not having a human mind. So it's something that we will be pursuing, because looking at it, it's very beneficial actually for most of the institutions, because it gives ability to interact with the users at any given time. Yeah.
Sagar, do you think AI can help financial inclusivity in Tanzania using AI, making it more accessible to provide financial services to a range of people who might not have had that kind of a service?
Yes, AI and data specifically, these are some of the good tools actually to develop the developing economies. In order to develop and in order to fasten the development, you need to create the right policies. And for you to create the right policies, you really need to know the dynamics of how the country is moving. You need to understand the people. And you need to have the ability to collect good information, good quality information, store them, interpret them, and making sure that you become agile in the implementation. But part of the development effort as well, you have to measure the spending vis-a-vis the income, and how are you tracking your sustainable development goals. That is very important. And the only right way to do that is through the quality of the information that you have. If you have the quality information, it means that your decision making will be very robust, your policies will be very effective, even your feedback mechanism on how you track those sustainable goals. As a country, as the economy, you will be far way ahead of others if you are rightfully informed. So we cannot skip the tangible goal of having data and AI in pushing the development agenda, especially for our developing economies.
So data development is very critical in terms of the development goals, especially for emerging countries in the region. Let's move to a little bit in terms of human capital. For listeners who are listening to you, what do you look for when you're looking to bring somebody on to your team? If there are people who are interested in applying, and one of the big things for our podcast is to democratize talent. All talent should not end up in these big tech companies. They should be going to NBC also. So tell our listeners, what kind of people do you look for in your team?
So my main one, usually, I need somebody who can solve problems. You see, that is where now we are differentiating between one individual and another. I need somebody, we can have quite a number of people who can explain the problems, and explaining the problem has never become a problem. You enter into a room and everybody will explain the problem in different ways. But I think one of the key and differentiating factor, especially in our moving economy right now, is we need people who can solve problems, people who can solution issues, people who can take the problems and say, give me 2 days, give me 3 days, I know how to fix this. So when you become that person, you become a bit more valuable. And that is what I look into people. I don't want somebody to explain to me the problem because I already know it, but I want a different perspective. How can we solve this problem? How can we solution? Because it is the human mind that can give you guidance on the steps on how you can actually solve the problems. And we are looking for problem solvers. I'm looking for problem solvers. Everybody's looking for problem solvers. Yeah.
So you heard it. He's looking for a problem solver as they go by. Tell us a little bit about some of the tools, whatever you can tell us, that you are using from an AI standpoint. And do you have any partnerships with either companies or universities, research institutions to help grow your capabilities? Again, your peers are doing something similar. This would be helpful for them to know.
Yeah, so for now, we are using the normal packages. For example, on the analytics side, we're using the Microsoft because now that comes with quite a number of things. There's Copilot as well, which has come into light, and we also expect to start utilizing and building the processes around it as well. On the data side, I call the heavy lifting, we are using Oracle stacks for different solutions from Oracle as well. Now, the issue of collaboration is very key, and we are trying to partner with several institutions as well to create something. We have already started DAMA Tanzania. It's the Data Management Association. In Tanzania specifically, we have formed that chapter so that we mobilize resources, people in the field, and making sure that we have enough collaboration, because once we have a certain institution that coordinates then we can partner with several universities and institutions in making sure that the data agenda is moving forward at a speed.
So a lot of collaboration with vendors and other trade associations and educational institutions that is happening per se. Sagar, when you look at the chief data officer or the chief AI officer role, do you think it's changed quite a bit in the past few years with the generative AI coming in, etc.? And what kind of skills should somebody like that have for people who are aspiring to be you in the future?
So the role has changed dramatically in the past few years. It was more of a supporting role. So you were sitting behind, making sure that everything is running smoothly, people are getting their support, all the support they require. But it has changed. Now I see Chief Data Officer as more of not just transformation role, but it's a business role. Because you really need to be ahead of everybody else. You have to think differently, you have to invent differently, you have just to have your game in. Because to run the business, for them to really get that insight, building all these AI use cases that can transform the organization, can bring about information, the right information. So at some point you are the chief business officer, at some point you are the chief risk officer, because that is where the diversification now comes in. You have to build, for example, AI use cases that mitigate risks. You have to build models that are working in the lending stream. You have to make sure that you optimize your cost in the operation. So it's a very diverse role, very engaging, and I think it is something to embrace. It is something that has to keep you very busy, but it is something as well that has to make you want to learn more, because now you have to know quite a number of things to perform.
Wow. So the role has changed dramatically. It's kind of become a chief transformation officer, a business role that interacts with the C-level execs. Is there an interdisciplinary aspect to it also, dealing with different aspects of the business, not just the tech part, but maybe dealing with legal, maybe dealing with customer support and all those different aspects? Is there an interdisciplinary part to it too?
Yes, so basically I would put it as more of multidiscipline role currently, because in legal, for example, you have mentioned, we have now this data privacy acts in different areas. We have it in Tanzania as well. So you have to understand the legality of it. So you're not a lawyer expert, but you need to understand what it entails, what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. In business as well, as I've said, you really need to be ahead of the business, because their job is merely just to create products, make sure that the products are being used, products are being sold. But how do you create those products? Can you provide them with significant data enough for them to make those decisions? So you have to be ahead of them. In lending as well, how do you integrate the current processes with the AI, for example? So you have to be a chief credit officer at the same time, and you have to think ahead. So it's a multidiscipline, and it interfaces through multiple disciplines, I can say.
So it integrates with multiple disciplines. You've got to be chief credit officer, chief customer officer, all those other things. If you're ready to wear that hat, then please apply. Tell our listeners, what do you think is the future of AI in financial services? You are in financial services, you have a software background, and now you've been in banking for such a long time. Just for our listeners in the financial sector, just a couple of things that really excite you from AI that are coming down the pike.
Data, AI, and development, these are the things that I talk passionately about. They come from my heart. And the future is very bright, actually. What has happened in the industry for the past, I can say, 100 years, you can't imagine in the next 20, 25 years. I mean, I'm usually even excited to make sure that I'm there to see those developments. We have had several challenges in the industry. For example, before we didn't have enough computing to do some few use cases. Now we have that computing that use. But again, I'm seeing the development of, for example, for computing power that will enable us. We have quantum now that will enable us to do much more, and the quality of information that we have currently. But the main one, I'm seeing a bit of democratization happening. We were talking much about data democratization. Now we are talking about AI democratization. There are new developments in small language models. We used to use large language models, training large data sets to perform these tasks. But now we can create compartments, use small language models. It means now we have the ability to roll out models which are smaller. Of course, they are not very effective now, but I'm seeing with the advancement in the computing, that will be the space we'll be playing. But financial industries as well, because you've asked, as much as now is highly regulated, but I see a lot of collaboration happening. We will not continue in this path of brick and mortar. Lots of collaboration will be coming in. I mean, we have seen here in Europe, very big institutions now, they have started to partner with companies that are using bitcoins and the like. And I see that changing the future of banking, because banking, the good thing is the change will not be initiated by us as bankers. I mean, the consumers, the environment, that is what is prompting to change. It's like during COVID times. I mean, nobody could even ascertain that people could not go to the offices and things could work, but the environment forced us to do. So change is coming, change is already here. I mean, we just need to be part of that.
Wow. So change is here, change is coming, quantum computing, democratization, not just of data, but of compute power, and AI is here, according to our esteemed guest. We at the end do a lightning round of questions. One word answers from you. So just a few to keep things interesting. So you ready?
Sure.
Okay. GPUs or TPUs?
GPUs.
Okay. Open source or closed source?
Open source.
Cloud or on-prem?
Cloud.
That's pretty good. Structured or unstructured?
Unstructured.
Okay. Multimodal or unimodal?
Multimodal.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. Really, your perspective on data, on the inclusivity and the future of AI, in not just in financial services, but giving opportunity, including everybody in this is fantastic. And really, our listeners are really lucky to have the opportunity, and I'm lucky to have that on the podcast. So thank you so much for taking the time. And our listeners, please continue to listen, as you can listen to leaders like Sagwal in terms of what is happening around the world with data and with AI. Please continue listening. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Sajid.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to the CIO podcast, where we talk to leaders who are driving AI implementations in large enterprises. We talk to them so that their peers can learn from their experiences. We talk to them so that others who want to follow in their footsteps get inspired by them. And we talk to them so people who are looking for AI opportunities understand the amazing things they are doing, and it creates an opportunity for them to attract that talent so that we democratize AI talent. And today, we are really thrilled to welcome back Dr. Nenad Mijatovic with us. Nenad is the Director of Data and AI at Alstom.
Thank you so much for being with us again, Ninad, in Amsterdam live.
I'm so thrilled to be here and really great to see you in person. So really my pleasure.
Yes, it's my pleasure, Ninad. And for our global audience, and we did this before, give them just a brief idea of what Alstom is and your role within Alstom.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Alstom is the biggest railway and mobility provider in the world. So we are specialized in transportation. So we're fully focused only on that segment of the business. And we build everything from trains. So maybe you even enjoy our trains here in Amsterdam. I hope that everything went well. We build a metro. We build the people movers on airports. We also build the signaling systems as well as the turnkey solutions. After we build everything, we basically put our maintenance contracts in place. So we're proud that we have more than 250 different projects worldwide. We are available in more than 60 countries all over the place, 85,000 employees, a lot of engineers, majority of them engineering, right? And right now we are building a big presence in a digital. And we are in a great position because, as I mentioned, we are specialized in this niche market, and then we are embracing all these new technologies, one of them being AI.
Well, that's exciting. As you rightly said, right here in Amsterdam is an example of your technology and your products, the trains and the metros, and around the world. You know, are there specific AI applications in use at Alstom that you can tell your peers and our listeners about?
Absolutely, absolutely. So what is super exciting about AI is really everywhere, right? So if you just walk this show, right, everyone talks about AI on the edge, AI on the cloud, responsible AI, etc. And that is very much what we do in Alstom. So first of all, we are making sure that when we build our products, our systems, right, we're helping the business to speed up the design process as well as the delivery process. So we found that AI is a nice tool for that because it can help us, making sure that the requirements are better written, we have the better coverage in the requirements, we're doing the validation, and also we are making sure that when we build the new trains, people would love to see how they're going to look like, right? So what is a better tool than generative AI nowadays? We are also making sure that when we deliver our trains, we can put the maintenance services in place. So we have quite a bit of solutions within the company, Train Tracer, Health Hub, which are basically, first of all, collecting the data from our trains. We are also analyzing the data, putting the data in some kind of KPIs, putting the automatic reporting at the end, but also there's a lot of AI that we deploy, understanding when the specific part is going to break. So for example, the train will not going to run if HVAC is not working. They will not move the train if the toilet is not working, right? So just imagine we need to come up with very, very reliable algorithms to predict when these subsystems are going to break. Then we're huge on energy savings. So we are making sure that overall our energy systems are using less energy, which is super important nowadays. So our target is right now anywhere between 5 and 15%, which is on a large scale, huge savings for the customers. But also we are reducing CO2 footprint. So one of the main goals of the company by 2050 is have the zero CO2 footprint in the industry. So this is super exciting to be part of it and helping with our little contribution using the AI tools to reach that goal. And there's a lot of auxiliary kind of functions within Alstom that we are helping with, such as engineering processes, engineering tools, HR functions, etc. So really, I'm super proud to say that we are kind of working as a small startup within a huge company, and everyone, is coming with new innovative ideas, with the new kind of ways of using the technology to improve their, daily lives.
Well, that's incredible. From designing trains, preventive maintenance, sustainability, energy, HR. My gosh, it seems like, obviously with such a large corporation. Ninad, how do you decide which use cases to focus on? Because with such a vast organization, there must be literally hundreds or even thousands of use cases. So your peers want to understand how to pick, what to pick in terms of what should be the criteria for those use cases.
That is fantastic question. So thanks for asking that. And we got these questions at the very beginning when we started our journey, right? So right now we have a rigorous methodology to select the specific use case, because as long as we would love to do the stuff, the day is limited, and also I do have the limited resources to do so, right? So what we do is we provided a specific set of questions based on which we can weight every of the incoming requirements for the new business. For example, I will give you concrete examples of some of these questions, because I believe that people can reuse it. First of all, without the data, we cannot do much. Okay, so that is the one of the first criteria, data availability, but also the next step is the quality of the data. So can we really use this data to develop the specific use cases? The next one is the targeting platform. So where this algorithm is going to live. Are we going to deploy it on a train? Are we going to deploy it on the cloud? Are we going to deploy it on your laptop or on a phone, right? So based on that, we're also selecting the specific technology to apply to, right? And then the last one, there's one more, which is super, super important, is we are just the poor data scientists. So we don't know much about the industry. So we rely heavily on our métiers. And we are so privileged to have the best brains of mobility industry working for Alstom. So really, collaboration with them is a pleasure. And we're learning a lot from them about the data, about the way how trains are working, but also they learn from us, what does it mean to be a data scientist, or what does it mean AI really in reality. So that is the third bit criteria. And finally, which is the most important for the business, is how much money we can save. Can we build the trains faster, better? Can we get the larger margins, right? And also, can we improve the efficiency of our people? Can we reduce the energy, and can we reduce the CO2 footprint, right? So as you can see, these are kind of the four big groups, and within those we have small questions that we ask people to, and then based on that we weight the answers, and we decide which one is a go, which one is a no-go, because for some of the use cases we just cannot go, because that's a reality, and which use cases we should shell and kind of wait for a better time to resurrect them later on.
Well, that's very helpful. So for our listeners who are looking at use cases, I think Ninad pointed out four key pieces is, do you have data? Quality of data, where is the data going to reside on? Working with the subject matter experts within your mobility or within your enterprise, and then obviously, is this going to save money or is it going to increase sales, etc.? I think that's very, very helpful, Ninad. The last point that you made, Ninad, there is something that comes up by your peers a lot, is how to figure out the return on investment for these investments, because the CFO keeps beating down on some of these people and saying, okay, you want so much money, how will I get return on investment, etc. So how do you figure that out?
So right now, that is one of the key questions that we ask them to provide to us. Okay, so it's either money, or it's either the percentage of the time to market, which is equally important, right? Sometimes you cannot put that figure in money, right? In a dollar sign. So, for example, right, and right now we do have a solution to optimize the way how you're gonna put all these subsystems on a train, right? So before that, it was either manual work, so a lot of time and a lot of experience the people needed to do. After that, we came up with this is combinatorial problem. Okay, with the combinatorial problem, it's very time consuming. So sometimes you wait for days, right, for the solution that might not be the most optimal one. And finally, right now we're using the AI to do so. So we figured out that only using this kind of solutions, we can save 60% of the time of the experts. So then you can translate that into the $/euro sign to understand how much money we can save to the company, right? But it's not always about the money, it's about time to the market. It's making sure that we deliver our solutions on time. And that is one of the most important things for Alstom nowadays.
So, as Ninad said, maybe it is sometimes saving cost in terms of time, but it also could be time to market, because speed is very, very important in the hyper-active world we live in. Ninad, you are in the world of mobility, transportation, where data and data security and privacy become very important. How do you look at that, and how do you implement that within Alstom with what you do?
Absolutely. So that's a great question as well. So first of all, there is a data privacy based on all of us as riders on the trains, right? So for example, when we do the counting of number of people on board or on a station, right? We do that by following all these GDPR rules. Okay, so we're making sure that we are not infringing any of the data privacy topics. We are also making sure that sometimes for some of our projects, right, Alstom doesn't own the data. So it's data from the customer point of view, right? And in that sense, we are putting not only the data kind of science, the AI part, but it's super important to put all this security and safety and cybersecurity tools in place. So one of the biggest topics in Alstom is cybersecurity. So making sure that the data from the customers are basically safely saved on some of the either cloud devices on-prem or even on a locomotive, for example. Okay, and that is not an easy task, because traditionally, we are not coming from the cybersecurity. However, we do have a lot of experience in a physical security of the infrastructure as well as the locomotives, right? So at the end of the day, that kind of marriage between physical and a cyber, right, give that competitive edge of Alstom in front of the competition. That's why when I said that we're super specialized in a mobility, right, that is where all these use cases are coming from.
No, that's great to know. Cybersecurity is very important. Data depends on where it resides. It's very, very important. And you talked about GDPR. The EU has passed the EU AI Act. What is Alstom's perspective on the EU AI Act and other AI-based regulations around the world?
We are definitely following all the regulations very, very closely. So from Canada, the USA, China, Australia, all over the globe, really. I mean, because as I mentioned, we're present everywhere, right? And most recently, the most comprehensive AI regulation pushed by EU, right? A couple of months ago, it is something what we are monitoring closely. So we do have the team within the company which is taking care of all these regulations, right? Making sure that whatever is going to affect us as the company, as our products, as well as our processes, we put in place. Okay, so that's what we do. We are basically recognized as safety critical applications. Okay, so for us, we are really taking this on the next level, and it is super important for us because Alstom is, and there is also misunderstanding between safety applications that Alstom as a provider of the trains and all these safety critical applications, meaning that you and me enjoy riding the train safely from point A to point B. So there is a lot of safety related functions within a train to make sure that we're safe and comfortable. Okay, and there is also the piece of the safe AI part, right? Which making sure that when we develop AI, it will not harm, people, goods, or whatever, right? So we cannot really put the equation mark between, the two, but we are understanding right now what is going to be the implications of the EU Act. Definitely, there is one, at least, okay,
Yes.
and how we are going to do it. We're also looking at the different standards. So, for example, recently, the technical committee 42 or 46, I believe, they released ISO 5469, which basically talks about the safety functions in AI systems. And we're also looking at that because that is the one which will hit us big time. And of course, if we want to do the business in Europe by 2027 and onwards, right, we need to make sure that we are compliant with the regulations, and not only compliant on an EU level as a global, but on the level of every single individual EU member state, right? So that will be a lot of work for us, but we are now teaming up only with not only inside. We're not working on this inside the company, but we're also teaming up with the other players, like industrial players outside, in a similar kind of position like us, as well as research institutions, universities, etc. So again, I think that of course, definitely we're going to follow, but also it is matter of collaboration. So it is super important that we share like we do here, right? And on this forum, and really, thank you so much, really, for doing everything, for us. I'm really huge fan and reading all your posts and stuff, and I'm learning every single day. But it is basically about that: is sharing and understanding, how I can gain something from other folks, right? And also, I hope that they can learn something from us as well, because as I mentioned, whatever we do must be the safety critical case. And also, if I can say one more thing, is right now we are putting a lot of effort of using the AI. Many of these cases that I explained to you are part of what we call non-safety critical applications, right? But the way how we are thinking of AI and the data science and all algorithms that we put in place is that we want to check all boxes related with the trustworthy AI. So then later on, when we move into the safety critical applications, right, Alstom would be ready. So that is our strategy right now.
So you are being very proactive with the EU AI Act, but across the world with the different regulations, and within the European Union also with the different country regulations also, and also following ISO standards and things of that nature. And what you said at the end, I think, makes a lot of sense. This could become a strategic advantage for you as you are building this capability of trustworthy AI. Ninad, in doing some of these things, and this is really a question from your peers, does somebody like in your role have to kind of also become at least a semi-expert in regulation and governance and wear multiple different hats working with so many different groups?
You're you're right in this case, right? And we within Alstom, we do have experts taking care of the standards and regulations which are related with our industry. Thus, I'm saying that we're working towards the same goal, to expand that group and making sure that they're also supporting us, poor data scientists, right, to understand what the governments are thinking of, what the bodies are thinking of, right, and how we should be compliant in order to have our solutions in a couple of years or decades, right? Maybe the timeline is a little bit too aggressive, to be honest with you, because if you look at all the standards related with the traditional software, right? I mean, some of them are 20, 30 years, 40 years old, right?
Yeah.
And we're still kind of enhancing them. So this is a great start. It is great to have the push. I fully agree, but and also to answer your questions very specifically is yes, within the Alstom we do have the team looking into all these standards and regulations and feeding us with all information in order to follow the rules and how all these regulations will have an impact on Alstom.
You know, one point that you made, and this is something I just wanted to briefly follow up. You talked about collaboration a lot. For your peers, how important is it to obviously have inter-company collaboration, but external collaboration, maybe with associations, academic institutions, incubators, whatever? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what we are doing right now, especially for the trustworthy AI, we are building consortium with other players that we recognize from academia as well as from industry as well as other industries similar to ours where we can learn. And there are multiple things what we are trying to do. The first one is making sure that the data science and AI methodology that we all going to use and enjoy, right? The methodology is not something that everyone enjoys, right? We like to be free spirits and do something quickly, but at the end of the day, we're in a professional environment and you need to follow the steps, right? So that is the first thing that we are working on. The second one is within the methodology, like data validity, quality, training of the models, validation of the model, etc. Right? All these different steps should be tested independently from the actors, right? So in that sense, we're also looking for the collaboration to pick the right tools for different steps within when we're designing, delivering, and maintaining the algorithms. Okay, and then finally, what is super important for us is which use cases we are going to pick to have the algorithms tested all the way throughout the methodology, right? And in that sense, this is the tricky one, okay? Because within this use cases, we might be, revealing some of the specifics of our own business. That is exactly what we don't want to do, right? And this is where we would like to work with other folks, understanding similarities with their use cases and how we can utilize their solutions. An example might be the following, right? So there was one consortium which was detecting the runways for the planes, right? Runways is something what we in a railway don't have, right? Yeah. However, detection of the rails, right, is something similar use case. Yeah. So we would like to learn how they did certification of that algorithm, right, for the runway, because we might learn and get, and apply that to the detection of the railways.
Wow. So lots of collaboration on figuring out which model to use, collaboration on trustworthy AI that you're trying to build this consortium, collaboration on use cases. So the message is collaborations are important, obviously keeping your business in mind, and you're doing it within your industry. You're not shifting to the issue of talent, because finding, the right talent is a challenge across the world for organizations. And one of the reasons we do this is to give folks like you an opportunity. Tell the people who are listening to you here and everywhere, what kind of skills do you look for when you look to bring somebody in your incredible, small but incredible team?
What you're doing really is amazing, right? Because it's such a noble kind of cause, right? To help us really find the right talent for the better tomorrow. What we do, right? We have a bunch of different ways how we attract the people, right? New talent. We are providing in a different countries within a different development centers, right? We have a close collaboration with academia. So we have this nice, stream of talents which will come work for us as the interns. We have time face to face. They learn what we do. We learn who they are, right? And then we in many cases, right, we kind of pursue that on the next level. The second one is exactly what we do right now. I think people nowadays, especially the young grads, right, they like to work for the company with a purpose. And we are right now really on the front end of giving people opportunity to go to work, to go to school, to see the loved ones, right, to enjoy this event, right, on very economical way. And that is what the people, like to do. Another thing is they like to move from one project into another, right? So it is super exciting that within the team, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we have so many different projects that you can easily kind of jump from maintenance into the energy analytics, into the passage accounting, right? I mean, there's so many different options within a team that you can really learn a lot as a data scientist. And I'm not saying here only as a young data scientist, but also as a senior as well. We are having within the team, we are having the mandatory, so great to say, but it is part of our work, right? Reading the papers, okay? Because only today, I bet that there are like at least 100 new algorithms, published by the people out there, right? We cannot master them all. So what we do is we basically, as a data scientist, we need to, feed our scientific part with the new advances in our field, right? Which is extremely, extremely important. And that is the shared part. So just think about it, right? I learned something and I explained to all of you guys, right? So you all benefit from it, right? And that is something what is really, really important. So again, I think the purpose, having the team really kind of energetic team and having super exciting jobs and use cases is something what you get people excited to join Alstom and other folks.
I think it's a great opportunity, a mission-driven company, opportunity to move around, but also, Ninad is giving you an opportunity to self-learn by setting aside time for learning, because everybody knows things are moving so fast. There is no way, unless somebody puts a chip in your brain to kind of do this. So a fantastic opportunity for people to join Alstom. Ninad, finally, what do you see in the mobility sector in terms of AI that coming down in the future that kind of excites you? In terms of innovations, is there anything that you're kind of keeping an eye on?
Absolutely, absolutely. So there is first of all, I believe that data science and AI will really, kind of have their roots in our industry. So everything is great, right? Everything is perfect. But if you think about, if I go back to the example of a software, right, where really the software is so importantly written on a specific way within industrial applications that is the next level from anyone else, right? And I believe that will be the same with the data science and AI algorithms. So we're really going to make sure that we're going to put them on the level that everyone will trust them. Everyone will be able to use them. And they will become an integral part of our industry. So that is something what really kind of excites me. And also making sure that, again, going back to the 250 projects, right? Just imagine, right? Every single project, hundreds of different locomotives and trains. So really what excites me the most is that we deploy our algorithms on all of them. Okay, that will be, really, this will be the ultimate goal, right? And I hope that, I'm not saying the next year, but in the following years, we are going to have that goal achieved.
Exciting things coming down the pike. Ninad, at the end, we have this lightning round of questions, just one-word answers from you, just a few of them, just interesting light, since we are in this huge conference area in beautiful Amsterdam. You ready?
I am.
Okay. GPU or TPU?
GPU.
Okay. Open source or closed source?
Open source.
Okay. Let's say edge computing or cloud computing?
Edge.
Okay. I think that's about it. You kind of hit all of them. Pretty well. Ninad, thanks so much for taking the time. Really, this has been fantastic. And for our listeners, Ninad's experience in mobility, in data, in AI just is incredible, and his vision in terms of where things are moving. And I hope all of you found it as important and valuable as I did. And keep listening to the podcast for insights from leaders like Ninad, because we need to keep shaping the future as it happens. Keep subscribing and keep liking. Thank you, Ninad.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
a lot. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
See ya.
Recording stopped.